Welcome back to Hannity. Breaking news tonight on the Uranium One scandal. The Clinton Foundation may have significantly underreported donations that it received from a firm with deep connections to Russia and its nuclear energy holdings. Now, this according to a brand new article from The Hill's John Solomon and Allison Spann. Now, this was released earlier tonight. The report details, quote, the Clinton Foundation's donor disclosure site vastly understated support that the Clinton Global Initiative received from APCO Worldwide, a global communications firm that lobbied on behalf of Russia's state-owned nuclear company. Now, we reached out to APCO for a statement. They gave us the same one that they gave The Hill. The executive chairwoman of APCO said, quote, APCO Worldwide activities involving client work on behalf of 10X and the Clinton Global Initiative were totally separate and unconnected in any way. All activities on these two unconnected activities were appropriate, publicly documented from the outset, and consistent with regulations and the law. Any assertion otherwise is false, unfounded, and a lie. Here with more, The Hill's John Solomon, investigative journalist Sarah Carter is with us. John, let's start with, okay, underreported donations received from a firm with deep connections to Russia and the nuclear energy holdings. Did that happen or not?
It definitely happened. APCO acknowledges it gave $1 million in what is known as in-kind pro bono services to the Clinton Global Initiative. The Clinton Global Initiative and the Clinton Foundation only disclosed $50,000 of cash payments that were made by APCO. The other million plus has not been disclosed until we learned about it from our records. We also know that the FBI undercover informant, according to his lawyer, Victoria Tensing, is prepared to tell Congress that the Russians told him they picked APCO specifically because of the Clinton connections, and that they expected APCO's support for the Clinton Foundation to go up.
Specifically.
They picked APCO specifically, and that they expected APCO's support for the Clinton Foundation to go up after Russia hired them. We're going to wait and see if he actually says that to Congress, but that's what his lawyer's saying. I think it's a fairly significant development.
And this is before CFIUS and the board and the 9 separate government agencies, including state and the Attorney General, signed off on it, right?
Yeah, now remember, APCO was hired to do another part of lobbying. They weren't working on Uranium One. They were working on helping the Russian government win billions of new uranium contracts in the United States. Uranium One was a separate deal, part of the same strategy, but they were working very differently on something that turned out to be much more valuable, billions of dollars of new utility contracts in the United States that were authorized by Barack Obama.
All right, Sarah, let's go to the money side of this. And you know the FBI informant, and you've discussed some of these things with him. 2 things that are important here. One is follow the money. Number 2 is the timing of the donations. Let's put those 2 together and couple it with John's new report. Where did all of this money, the $145 million that Peter Schweitzer talked about, come from, and what was the timing based on the activities as it relates to Uranium One, CFIUS, and the Clinton Foundation?
Well, we certainly know, Sean, there's been a number of concerns here. I mean, from the $145 million, which came from members of the board that were connected to Uranium One. And if I want to go back just really quick, because the APCO story is very important, they signed that contract in April of 2010. So that was before the CFIUS process went through later that October. So this was very important, and the informant made that very clear to his attorney, and John's 100% right on that. It's something that he's expected to testify to. So let's go back now to the money. Look at the money trail. How did they move this money? Where was the money moved to? How did it get into the Clinton Foundation? This is the reason why a special counsel or a prosecutor, an investigator, needs to look into this. And right now we know that there's 4 different committees on the Hill looking into this. There is the Judiciary Committee, the Oversight Committee, the House Intelligence Committee, and the House Foreign Affairs Committee. So this is a very serious, expansive investigation. It's going to require somebody with the know-how and capability to find it.
Follow up then, because the FBI informant knew about Putin's plans to get a foothold in the uranium market. By the way, we need uranium. Allowing someone to control it is beyond stupid. But bribery, kickbacks, extortion, money laundering. Is there evidence of any money laundering? In other words, the people in Canada, the Frank Gusters of the world and others, is there any evidence? Where did they get all these millions to donate to the Clinton Foundation? And is there any chance that money was laundered and funneled to the foundation?
I absolutely think that once an investigation gets started, they may find some of that evidence. Now, I don't want to sit here and say definitively that they will.
But it's an open question now.
But it is an open question now. And so now we're looking at a couple of issues here. We know that money was laundered through banks in Cyprus, particularly Alpha Bank. There was Latvia. There was the Seychelles. There's a lot of evidence out there. And one thing that's very important, Sean, here is that the informant is going to be able to show that he was actually providing evidence to the FBI and the Justice Department long before CFIUS voted on this, showing how much Russia wanted to penetrate the U.S. energy market. And John's absolutely right on one point. In fact, it was way beyond uranium one. It was $6.5 billion or more of U.S. energy.
John, I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, listen, I think we focus so much on uranium one because that's where this story started in 2015, but it's only one piece of a larger puzzle. And you take a look at what Barack Obama administration, Hillary Clinton's own State Department helped approve and get through. It's a much larger giveaway to the Russian uranium industry. And here's, I think, the most important thing about today. Large parts of the story that Hillary Clinton and her defenders have given the media have now been proven wrong. Let's go through some of them. There was no reason not to reject the Uranium One deal. There was. The FBI had evidence of criminality by the very buyer of Uranium One. All of the donations were disclosed. They weren't all disclosed. There was lots of concern inside the FBI about where the money was coming from, and that we really not had a full airing about that. And my favorite one, it was repeated on Shep Smith's show just a couple weeks ago on Fox, that no uranium left the United States. Uranium One did export American uranium out of the United States after Russia bought it.
To Canada, Europe, and maybe even Asia?
That's right, and that's according to Uranium One. That's not us, that's Uranium One. The three key defense points that have been put out there by the Clinton defenders are now been proven false, not by anonymous stuff, by documents and by true reporting. And I think that that's one of the things that is most important about today's story. One of the key pillars is not true.
We all know more about this story than we're telling. And I can only say to our audience that has been following this with you, stay tuned, TikTok. I think you'll both agree with that. Thank you. Great work, both of you.
We're joined now by Fox senior political analyst Brit Hume. Brit, I don't know if you just heard that, but now that the passions of the campaign have cooled, it's over, and we can look at this in the clear light of post-election America. That seems like the campaign politicizing what should be a completely non-political process of assessing whether information is secure. And that seems like a scandal to me.
It sounds for all the world, Tucker, as if this man was simply doing what it was his job to do, which is to bring this sort of information forward and indeed to take it to Congress. He did it for other whistleblowers, as he described, and he was doing it on his own in this case, expecting, as he, I guess, naively did, that he was going to get a friendly, warm reception with people eager to hear about this abuse, this gross mishandling of classified information, as he describes it. And you've got these political actors on the Hill trying to shut him down and telling him he should be concerned about the political implications. That is obviously howlingly improper. And, you know, it plays back into this question of, all right, Hillary Clinton is now gone. She's basically, although she's, you know, we're still hearing from her and she's writing books and giving interviews and saying things, it's pretty clear that she's not going to be the president and that her public life is largely over. But what about these other actors in the drama on Capitol Hill and elsewhere who were trying to basically suppress this? It seems to me that there's some accountability is required there, and that's probably where this story ought to go.
Give us some perspective. It strikes me as inherently improper for a political campaign to be coordinating with government agencies about a matter related to national security like this. Is it?
Well, I think it's common, but it's certainly a little different when you're dealing with classified information, which has a special standing in our system. This is very sensitive stuff. It has national security implications. And what this man was clearly doing was trying to bring to the attention of the authorities on the Hill something a case where classified information had been very badly mishandled, recklessly mishandled, one might say. And what he got was interference from a political campaign. That may have happened in the past, Tucker, but it's never become public, and I've never heard of it. So I think this is highly unusual. And the sense you have is that everybody said, look, you know, you got to be careful here. This is explosive stuff. It could affect the outcome of the election. which is precisely the calculus that you know is in the mind of James Comey when he's trying to figure out what to do with this investigation. And we now know that he wrote ahead of time, before his investigation was done, you know, a memo declining to charge her, outlining the reasons for not doing so. And then, of course, in the end, he didn't, although he came very close to outlining what could be a pretty solid case against her in the famous news conference that he held. Yes. So this is the kind of thing that happens when political calculus enters into these decisions. In the one case of Comey, it was a Justice Department decision about prosecution. You had a compromised Attorney General who had had the famous tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton and so on. And all adds up to a case, and now another case outlined here, of political interference with matters that ought not be political.
It seems like exactly what you don't want from your government, and almost designed to shake our faith in it. Britt Hume, thank you for that perspective. Appreciate it.
Brett Tucker.